coach expectations in 2024. What do year one and year two coaches need to do this year? Russ, I know you have a lot of thoughts on it, so I'm going to let Travis start, and then we'll get into your big thoughts, okay? But Travis, so we have a number of new coaches in the Big Ten, first-year coaches. You're Jonathan Smith being one of them, Jedd Fisch, Washington, Sherrone Moore, Michigan, Curt Cignetti, Indiana, and then the year two guys, David Braun, Northwestern, which I guess, is that year one or year two? What do you guys count that as?
I mean,
he's interim last
year. He did do a full season. Yeah, he did the full season.
Okay, so yeah, year two, we'll make David Braun year two, Matt Rhule year two, Luke Fickell year two, Ryan Walters year two. I'm not missing anybody there, right? That's all the year two and year one guys.
I think that's it.
I believe so.
Yeah. So, Travis, what are your expectations? I guess start with Jonathan Fisher and then give me Curt Cignetti, Sherrone Moore, and Jedd Fisch after that.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously everybody's given State a lot of props for pulling Jonathan Smith away from Oregon State. I mean, I like everything I'm hearing. I like what I'm seeing. In terms of expectations, I mean, there's been a ton of roster turnover, which obviously was after winning 4 games last year. I mean, it's kind of called for. You're not going to win much with the same team coming back. I would say that there's a lot of people that, at least that I've talked to, that are State fans that think we can surprise some people this year and win, up to 8 games. I would say just getting back to bowl eligibility needs to be the first goal for him. Just be respectable. I mean, it's a winnable. The outside of the month stretch where we play Ohio State, Oregon, Iowa, and Michigan 4 weeks in a row, it's a manageable schedule to at least get 6 wins in there. And so I would say that should probably be the baseline for him. And then, he's probably going to keep building from there. And that should be the expectation with him in year one.
Yeah, I agree. I think Michigan State's win total is at 4.5. So
yeah,
I mean, if you go by win total metrics, it's pretty low bar.
I think the last time the bar was that low, we won 11 games. So
there you go.
That'll work.
Is Kenneth Walker on this team?
Unfortunately not. Yeah.
Nice.
That we did. Yeah. Running back could be a bit of it. Nate Carter's pretty good, but he doesn't do what Kenneth Walker did.
Yeah.
In terms of the other guys, Sherrone Moore, I would say, I mean, it's hard to follow up what they did last year as much as, everybody loves to hate Michigan, myself included. There's just, it's obviously going to be a step back there in some capacity, especially with the number of guys that they have leaving and everything. And I honestly don't have high expectations for him, especially with, in terms of comparably to what they have been. So you look at their schedule, it could be rough one compared to what they've been used to the past couple of years over there. And then Indiana Cignetti, I think it's Indiana. Doesn't seem to be a lot of high expectations from the football team most years. So I don't think he's facing a ton of pressure, but I do think he brought in a lot of guys that can help him out. There's a lot of JMU guys following with him, can kind of help him set up that program and set the baseline for a few years to come.
Makes sense. Brian Myers is here in the chat. He says Sherrone Moore is going 6-6. 2024 Michigan will change 2020 LSU for the worst post-natty season in modern college football history. I'm low on
totally Michigan. Disagree. Yeah.
As I say, I'm low on Michigan as well. But I don't think I'm going to go as low as 6-6. I definitely understand it, Brian. Don't get me wrong. I'm not arguing with you by any means. But I just think Jim Harbaugh was so much to them, and Sherrone Moore. I mean, it's really, really tough getting your first head coaching job in the Big Ten. I mean, ask Ryan Day. Yes, it's been one of the best programs in college football. So obviously it's easy, but at the same time, it's high expectations. So I'm really interested to see what Sherrone Moore does. Dylan says Sig is a fraud. It all goes back to that basketball game when he called out Purdue and Michigan and Ohio State, right, Russ?
Yeah.
But hey, he mentioned you with Purdue. He mentioned Purdue, Michigan, and Ohio State. So it's got to feel good to be mentioned with those guys, right?
One of the few times that you hear those three teams mentioned in the same breath. Yeah.
I love it. All right, Russ, give me your year 2 guys, and why don't you finish it up with Ryan Walters at Purdue? Go with the other guys first, because I know you have some thoughts to finish it up with Ryan Walters compared to some of the other guys.
Yeah, so I mean, are we talking about like fan base needs or to keep their job needs? Because
I don't know if any of these guys.
Yeah,
who do you guys think, like, if they don't go to a bowl game, who is on a hotter seat, Luke Fickell or Matt Rhule? Because I think Luke Fickell is more than Matt Rhule. I think Nebraska is willing to be patient with Matt Rhule.
No, because the Nebraska fans, it's interesting how quickly the switch has flipped with them, because don't forget he lost 4 straight at the end of the season, and they weren't against Michigan, Ohio State, or Penn State. And all he had to do was win one game to go to a bowl game, and people were like ready to take him, burn him at the stake. And now all of a sudden they're going to go to the Big Ten championship game this year. So yeah, if they don't make a bowl game, I think he's going to be having a pretty
the off season cures so much when you recruit well. You know what I'm saying?
Like, quarterback's going to take him to the Big Ten championship or 10 wins or whatever they expect.
He is a damn good quarterback, but not that much. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he's a really good quarterback, but I don't think he's 10 wins good enough personally.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that Nebraska should be happy with the bowl game this year. You know, I think it's interesting to me to see a first year coach, but he's had plenty of coaching experience along the way. And when you're 5-3 with 4 games left against, what was it, Michigan State, Maryland, Wisconsin, and Iowa, and you can't win one of those games to go to a bowl game, you know, and you've got that much experience. I don't understand the level of hype he's getting when you've got a coach like Ryan Walters who went 4-8 in his first ever year as a head coach and had the toughest schedule per Pro Football Focus. So yeah, Matt Rhule, I mean, I think for the fan base, they're going to want him to win at least 9 games, or they're going to be, you know, pretty upset and wanting to see what happens in year 3 before they make a decision. And if he doesn't make a bowl game, this might be his, you know, second 2 and done. He might be 2 and done. David,
but real talk, really fast, like real talk, like doesn't this happen every year with Nebraska though? Like it happened with Scott Frost. Like every single year you see people. It was me last year, and I was making a joke about Zach before we got in here that like it's his turn to drink the Kool-Aid on Nebraska, because it's almost like every single year there's like that one person in the media that's like, Nebraska's going to a bowl. I saw somebody say that Nebraska's going to the playoffs this year. Like, don't get me wrong. The Big Ten.
It's easier now, but yeah.
Right? Like they're in good position to get somebody who's 2, maybe 3 losses, get to the playoffs in the Big Ten. But like that's still a super high bar for somebody who, you know, didn't even go to a bowl game last year. Which I think Nebraska fans would understand that, but maybe you're right, Russ. Maybe they wouldn't be happy with anything less than 9.
Yeah, I mean, the College Huddle has been a lot of fun. It's been great to start to collaborate and hear viewpoints from all these different fan bases. But listening to a lot of these pods across the College Huddle, yeah, I'm calling out not just Big Ten, but everybody. You'd think that there's going to be like a 64-team playoff this year, because like everybody thinks they're going to the playoff.
Yeah,
it's crazy. All 18 teams in the Big Ten think they're going to a bowl game this year, and it's like something's got to give. Like I get the off season's all about optimism, but
it's so true. What were you going to say, Travis?
I was just going to say, look at Matt Rhule's history as a college coach at Baylor and Temple. Historically, his second year, he barely makes it into a bowl game. And the third year is when he jumps. He went 6-6 at Temple and 7-6 at Baylor in the second year. So I would say, you know, bowl game would be the minimum expectation, or where the expectation should be.
Yeah, and I get that. To me, it's tough to look at 5-3. With those 4 teams left, and you couldn't, with all your coaching experience, I get the trajectory. Like he's always kind of slowly built these programs up, but like 4 winnable games, you couldn't get one of them. Like Michigan State, no offense, but Michigan State won one game over the last 8 or 9 games, and that was Nebraska.
Yeah. No, you're 100% correct on that. I was just saying that's where the barometer has been for him in his career in year 2.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. As far as the other second-year head coaches, David Braun. I think he's bought enough goodwill with Northwestern that they could win 2 games this year, and they'd go, "Oh, it's fine. He's just got to get the program back in shape. We got a new stadium coming."
He was supposed to win 2 games last year, and he won 8. I mean,
I get that, but like, I don't think Northwestern is from what I've seen, maybe the Westlaw Pirates can inform us a little bit more, but like, I don't see them as a fan base that's like, one bad year, we're going to burn you at the stake and let's try to bring somebody else in.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think he's got a little bit of a leash. Not that I expect him to win 2 games at all. That's not. I think that they fully should expect to go to a bowl game again this year. But and then Luke Fickell, I mean, they didn't have Michigan or Penn State on the schedule last year, and he got to 7-5, just kind of barely got to 7-5. He didn't. A lot of the games were not impressive, did not look great. Tanner Mordecai experience
should have won the Big Ten West last year.
Yeah, did not really work. They should have won them, and so like I'm nervous. I think Luke Fickell needs to go to bowl game, or they're also kind of like Nebraska. They're kind of going, hey, like in this day and age, you should be able to turn a program around much faster than 3 or 4 years, especially if you've got that pedigree of coming in as a coach that succeeded at other now Power 4, Power 5 programs. You should be able to turn around by the end of year 2, 100%. But to finish with Ryan Walters, as you said, expectations, I mean, I look at Purdue's schedule, and it's another tough schedule this year. We do have an FCS opponent at least that we open up with. So, I think our range is from 1-11 to, I think you could write a narrative for 11-1. Now I think that's like less than 1% on each end of those
playoffs, Russ. Playoffs.
I'm just saying, we've had the pedigree of beating top teams at home. We got Notre Dame's at home, Oregon's at home. So that road games with Ohio State, I think that's like a 1 in a million if we were to pull something like that off. So I don't even think we have a prayer there. But I mean, we get Nebraska at home, and historically we've beat Nebraska 4 of the last 6 times we played them. Illinois, we've kind of owned that rivalry. Indiana, we're kind of back on top again with them. Oregon State's had a lot of turnovers, so we go out there. Could we knock them off? Notre Dame they've better success recently than Nebraska, but they're, like I said, they're coming to Ross-Ade. So, and this fan base is fired up. This fan base, we've sold over, I think, 40 or 45,000 season tickets now, which is the most since like 2007. So, despite a 4-8 season, they're very hyped on what could be coming in the season because, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but you look across our roster, and we've had a great class come in, right? I think it's like top 25 composite class, great transfer class. We've got Hudson Card, who's probably a top 5 quarterback in the conference, at least top half. You've got Devin Mockabee and Reggie Love, who is probably one of, if not, I would say a top 5 1-2 running back tandem, right? They both led a Big Ten team in rushing last year. You've got Max Clare, I think, is going to be one of the best tight ends in the country this year. If you haven't watched Purdue football, you're going to be surprised by the numbers he put up. He just happened to get hurt in his freshman year. Dylan Thieneman, All-American safety, right? Cajun Jenkins was, he was part of that 1-2 punch that led to the Big Ten in sacks. And then we bring in a lot of talent in the defensive back. We just signed a 5-star Terrion Grant defensive back that's going to be able to play next year. We signed Nyland Green out of Georgia. Did you know like one of the top 5 transfer portal paths was from Georgia to Purdue? So you bring in, 4 or 5 SEC guys from a program that has been known to be among the best of the best in the SEC. I think that's why I get hyped and think, well, this could be your Purdue surprise and goes a bowl game. But then you look at that schedule and you go, man, it's going to be tough. Like, 4-8, your record is, you are what your record says you are, but I think there's more to it that, you look at this Big Ten, and if you talk about like the Oregons and Ohio States, and maybe you throw like a Michigan, if you expect Michigan to be up there this year, if they only have 1 or 2 losses combined between them at the top of the conference, the rest of the conference is going to average 5 conference losses. So that means it's going to be tough to make a bowl game for a lot of these teams in this conference that think they're going bowling this year.
I think they're going playoffing this year, like we just talked about.
Yeah.
Get some comments really fast, and then we'll continue on. LFG, like number 3. Thank you, LFG. Yes, if you're watching the video, please do like the video. We appreciate that. 8 wins would be reasonable for Nebraska, given their schedule. Yeah, I think Nebraska fans should be happy with 6 or 7 at the least. 8 would be great. I think you're ecstatic if you get to 8. But yeah, I think at least 6 or 7. Michigan State beat Indiana late season in 23. I forget what we were talking about when I said that. I like Fickell, but the schedule is no joke for whiskey. Alabama is going to be the biggest barometer for Luke Fickell this year. If he competes and has a really, really good game, even if they lose, I'm going to be like, okay, great job by Fick in Wisconsin and things are going well. But I mean, if they just get their doors blown off, like, that's definitely not a good situation there. And then Dylan, got my season tickets and I'm ready. Yes, Dylan, you'll be looking for a billion. I almost said billion by Boilers. Boilers by a billion. That's what it is, right? This is Brad Meyer's Purdue schedule is kind of rough. Going to need some breaks to fall their way to get bowl eligibility. It is kind of rough. Don't you play 2 Power 4 teams at a conference, Russ?
Yeah, we go to Oregon State, and then we have Notre Dame at home. So
okay,
and then Indiana State's our third non-conference. So
is Notre Dame after that Texas A&M game? I forget what week that is.
Texas A&M game for Notre Dame?
Should be.
Yeah, Notre Dame plays Texas A&M. I think week 2?
It's week 3, I believe. I believe we have Indiana State, Oregon State, and then Notre Dame. So, yeah, it should be after.
Notre Dame A&M, I believe, is week 1.
Oh, is it week 1?
August 31st. August 31st.
Oh, okay. So they'll get a break game before they have to play Purdue. Is it at Purdue, Russ?
It is at Purdue, yeah.
We're going to talk about stadiums here in a minute, and Purdue's going to be on my list as Russ knows. One more comment, LFG, not a GBR fan, but I love DC, Tony White, the strength of 24. Nebraska is their scrappy D. I agree. The worst case scenario for Nebraska, in my mind, is if they go 5-7 and lose Tony White. Like if the defense is just lights out again, like if they have like an Iowa type season where the defense is awesome. Well, Iowa the past 2 years, I don't even know it's been like this, but the past 2 years where the defense is just lights out awesome, and Tony White is like, if I can't get an offense, I'm not going to do anything here. And then Tony White leaves, and Matt Rhule is back to square one again with trying to hire somebody. Not to say Matt Rhule can't hire somebody, but yeah. So that's what I think. All right, so let's go through them really fast. You guys just give me a yes or no if you think that the fan base would be satisfied with this number of wins. Okay, you ready? Washington, Jedd Fisch, first year. If they get 7 wins, are Washington fans happy?
No.
Yeah.
Sherrone Moore, Michigan. If Michigan gets 9 wins, are Michigan fans happy?
No. They want double digit.
They should be, but they won't be.
But they need 10, is what you're saying. Okay. Curt Cignetti, Indiana. If Indiana gets 6 wins, are Indiana fans happy?
I think they're throwing a party.
Yeah.
All right. Travis, this one's for you. Michigan State. If Michigan State gets 5 wins, are you happy?
Probably not.
Okay.
I mean, it's an improvement, but I mean, anything less than a bowl is underneath program overall expectations.
It's an improvement from Mel Tucker.
Well, right. Yeah. We can't go anywhere but up. That's the great thing. But
yeah,
that's not enough of an improvement.
Yeah. No, I think so too. Guys, I forgot about DeShawn Foster. I need to write his stuff down. He was a first year coach. UCLA fans are going to be mad in the comments about this one. David Braun, Northwestern, 7 wins for David Braun, Northwestern. They happy?
Absolutely.
Should be. Yeah. You win 7 or 8 games a year at Northwestern, you're basically a god.
Yeah. Matt Rhule, Nebraska, 6 wins. Are they happy?
No.
They're not happy, no.
Not at all. They will not. No.
Playoff or bust. Luke Fickell. They win. All right, so they win 7 games again. Okay, but they beat Alabama. One of those 7 wins is Alabama. They obviously drop a few they shouldn't drop because they have 5 losses, but they beat Alabama, 7 wins. Are they happy?
Yes.
I think with the schedule they have, yeah.
Okay.
Like they could be a team that is improved, but due to the schedule, it doesn't really show in the final record.
Yeah. I really appreciate LFG. He has given his thoughts on all of these as well in the comments. You're awesome, LFG.
Coming from a Purdue fan, the year we beat Ohio State 49-20 in that Tyler Trent game, we started 3-3 and our 3 wins were against ranked teams. And so that was frustrating because you sit there and you go, well, if we can beat the best teams on our schedule, why can't we take care of the other teams? But it was still a fun season to watch. So I think overall they should be happy. If they beat Alabama 7 wins, they should be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so too. All right. Russ, your guys here. Ryan Walters, Purdue. Are you happy with 5 wins?
No.
Oh, I agree. I think you need to at least go to a bowl game, especially bringing in all those Georgia guys.
I think, because the problem is, in the long run, I won't be incredibly upset. The problem is you got to start realizing in these rebuilds, like, Michigan State with your new coach and Purdue in their second year with head coaches, it's not just about going 4-8 or 5-7. It's what does the roster look like after you do that?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just, you got to start thinking about that result of like, it's not just how you finish your season. It's what does the effect of your season have on your incoming recruiting class and how many guys hit the transfer portal? Because it's now you can transfer 4 times, basically 3 times, play for 4 different schools. So if you're not happy because you went 4-8, see ya.
So let me ask you this, Russ. Would you be happy with 8 wins, but you lose to Indiana?
Depends on when. If it's the day after the end of the game, no, I'm not happy. But if it's, end of the season, I'm like, you know what, 8-4 was good. Mason Gillis, I think, said it something about it last year in basketball when we got swept by Indiana, but won the Big Ten by 3 games. It's like, I'd rather win the Big Ten by 3 games than get swept by Indiana, or than beat Indiana. So it's,
yeah. I always think that's the toughest part. It's like you had a really good season, but you lost to your biggest rival. Like, are you happy? It's a difficult question. Dave says, as long as Minnesota fan Dave, been with us for a long time. We appreciate you, Dave. As long as Wisconsin loses to Minnesota, I'm happy. There we go. PJ Fleck beat Luke Fickell. You'll make Dave happy. LFG, like I said, he's given his thoughts on all of them. Said no, Purdue's fans want 6+ or Purdue fans. Sorry, I read that wrong. Yeah. So I think that's the biggest thing for Purdue, me personally, and I don't know if Russ would agree or not, but I think you have to, like, you got all these Georgia players in there. You have to show that, like, you are growing something, you are building something, and kind of keep that cachet for Ryan Walters. I just talked about it with Sonny on the Illinois video we made. Like, Ryan Walters is getting a lot of the credit for guys like Devin Witherspoon and stuff like that, that went to the NFL. Not saying that guys like that he doesn't deserve the credit, but guys like Aaron Henry, who are Illinois now, they don't seem to be getting as much credit as Ryan Walters is, and he has to show that he can earn it. So let's just do DeShawn Foster really fast because I feel bad for neglecting them now. But UCLA, 5 wins. Are they happy? I think their win total is either 4.5 or 5.5. I can't remember.
No, probably not.
I'm sure that they beat UCLA. 5 wins, but they beat UCLA. USC. 5 wins, but they beat USC.
I'll go yes. They should be. I mean, it's a rough transition to go from not just going into the Big Ten, but being a West Coast California team in the Big Ten. I think any 5 wins, you got to kind of take that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Foster was kind of an under the radar head coaching candidate too, so that's kind of
they kind of had to go with him.
Yeah,
it was such a late hire.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why I would agree with Russ. They probably should be happy with that, just given the circumstances.
I agree. Brian Meyer says, you might know this, Russ. Did Purdue upgrade the visitors' locker room yet? I remember Jim Hairball. We got a lot of nicknames in the chat. I appreciate it. Complaining about them. Did they update the visitors' locker room, Russ?
Yes, they have, and that's something that was actually going to be addressed. I may or may not be doing some kind of a state of the program type of a pod sometime this offseason. So just stay tuned to your socials. That's something that definitely will get addressed. There's been some shifts in the Purdue program. Basically, kind of happened with Mike Babinski and Jeff Braun kind of coming in. So yeah, the program's. That's why I think 6+ wins is the expectation this year.
Nice. Dylan, California's not a real place. We all know this. Yes.
Good point.
Normally I wouldn't stop for questions like this, but LFG's been so great in the comments. I'll give him this one to us. Do you guys know how capable the UCLA coaching staff is? Their O-line coach just came from the NFL Eagles. Their OC is NFL legend Eric Bieniemy. Yeah, I know they're capable, and I know they have a good staff there. I kind of question Eric Bieniemy because he was with Andy Reid, for a long time, and then he goes off. Was it the Commanders or the Raiders? He went off.
Commanders. Yeah,
and just kind of flopped. Which the Commanders are a floppy organization. So how much is that on Bieniemy? How much is that on Washington? Just as a bad organization. I don't know. I have to think that he brings a lot of good intelligence with him, obviously, from the NFL and that kind of stuff. I just questioned DeShawn Foster, first-year head coach, hired so late. That's just such a big struggle. I feel like it's nothing against him. Like it's such a big struggle. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, not to get too much into NFL, but yeah, Bieniemy, the narrative behind him this year was he was going to go to the Commanders to prove that it was also partly him that Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs were so good.
Mm-hmm.
And 1 year later, he's an offensive coordinator at UCLA. So, I don't think you have to see what happened to know how it probably went, because the Chiefs won the Super Bowl and he lost his job after a year. So,
yeah. I mean,
true.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I mean, there's no, and another thing is that this is about kind of like with UCLA, we're talking about is more like about the circumstances than it is what they have on the coaching staff. So they could have great coaches, but they're kind of throwing everything together on the fly as the season's approaching, and that's a difficult thing to do.
Yeah, I agree. LFG's pretty high on Foster, a better head coach than you guys realize. 24, UCLA schedule is brutal, so the team may improve, but the win total won't show it. So, all right, we'll be on the lookout for it, LFG. I appreciate you commenting and letting us know. So